Welcome to Future Talk, the program that examines the global impact of technology and tries to see just where the new technology is leading us. Most of what we know about the world we learned from the media. So on today's program, we're going to look at how journalists are being trained for the 21st century. Our focus is the journalism program at Palo Alto High School, which is one of the largest and most innovative high school journalism programs in the country. I have two guests representing that program. Esther Wojcicki founded the program about 20 years ago and has played a central role in its growth and success. She's worked as a professional journalist, blogs regularly for the Huffington Post, has won numerous teaching awards, and served on the University of California Curriculum Committee, where she helped revise the journalism curriculum for the state of California. She's the advisor for the Campanile, which is the student newspaper at Pali, and she has an additional claim to fame as the mother-in-law of Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, who was married to Esther's daughter. Paul Kandel is a highly acclaimed teacher who was named 2009 National Journalism Teacher of the Year by the Dow Jones Newspaper Fund. He's been a newspaper reporter, he's worked for Newsweek magazine, and throughout his teaching career, he's been active in training other journalism teachers, often speaking at state and national conventions. He's the advisor for Verde, which is the student news magazine, and the Pali Voice, which is the school's online journalism portal. And I'd like to welcome both of you to the program tonight.
Thank you.
Esther, how is your journalism program different from most other high school journalism programs?
Well, so in Palo Alto High School journalism program, we have a distinct respect for student rights to their own opinions. So students talk about things and write about things that are important to them. And most other states abide by something called the Hazelwood Law. And Hazelwood basically, in 1988, it was a Supreme Court decision, and it gave the right of first approval, prior approval, to the principal or to the advisor. And so in 43 out of the 50 states, the Hazelwood Law is the law that prevails. However, California passed a law that actually invalidates the Hazelwood Law in California, in other words, supersedes it, so that students in California can actually write about things that are important to them. So here in Palo Alto, we take this very seriously.
But does that make a difference in how they're trained? I mean, is there something different about the way you train the students, the way you provide skill sets, aside from the fact that they can write about what they want?
Well, it helps them think. So, for example, Palo Alto High School students, in order to come up with your own story ideas, you have to think. And if you're given story ideas, well, then you just follow the instructions. But in Palo Alto, the kids actually come up with their own ideas. So what's important to me is not necessarily what's important to them. And so, I mean, we read stories, or they write stories, and of course I read them, about things that I would never even think about writing about. And I can give you some examples.
Well, let me ask you this. What are some of the main traits that you're looking for in a journalism student? What are the factors that sort of predict success in this field?
Well, we take everybody. Literally, we take all students who want to be part of the journalism
program. And I understand
program.
A lot of students at the school take your classes. They must like them a lot.
Yes, well, we like all the students, and we really like kids. And so basically what we're doing is we take all students, but let's see, what would be a good predictor of future success in journalism is a very inquisitive mind. And also the ability to ask questions that are difficult. So standing up in a crowd and asking the questions that everybody has in their mind but is afraid to ask. So we try to train our kids to actually think and then to ask those difficult questions and not to be fooled by any sort of advertisement or propaganda or things that, they might traps they could fall into.
I wonder how you train them to think, because it's obvious that they need to think if they're going to be journalists, but do you just tell them you need to think, or is there some kind of methodology that enable or puts them in a situation where they have to develop that?
So I think one of the ways that we train them to think is, for example, so you send kids out to some kind of an event that happened. So we have things like Spirit Week, which just happens to be a Palo Alto High School event. And what you want to do is have the kids go and get all the information. So what's happening at Spirit Week? And so kids come back with all the information, you know, they write it down helter-skelter, however they do. So then the question is, what is the most important? And so figuring out what is most important turns out to be really hard for kids. And they're used to telling narrative stories, so they're used to telling a story, and then the punchline comes at the end. So in newspapers, nobody wants to read like a 500-word story only to find out the news at the end of the story. So they have to find the news at the beginning of the story. So the kids have to learn how to figure out, so what is the most important thing?
They've got to get to the point right away.
You have to get to the point right away. And also, so let's say, for example, there are, you know, 3 or 4 important things. So how do you know what to feature? What is the most important part? So that helps them get started thinking. And then they look at other stories and the way...
Actually, we went out to Pali last week and we actually videotaped some of the students and some of the teachers. And we're going to show that video right now. It's a few minutes long, and then we're going to come back and continue our discussion of the Palo Alto High School journalism program. So let's go ahead and roll that tape.